Welcome to another episode of Message from Mom, where we're busting the myth that mothers-in-law aren't necessarily monsters-in-law. And I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts who happen to be my daughters-in-law. So to the left of me is Kelly.
Hi, I'm Kelly, and I'm married to Beth's oldest son, Alex.
And to the right of me is Chelsea.
Hi, I'm Chelsea, and I'm married to Beth's middle son, Andrew.
And we have, actually, I think it will be a very fun topic because way back in the day, so I'll give you my message from mom really, really quickly before we raise a toast. But fall TV was really big when I was growing up, and we could not wait to get our hands on the fall TV guide to see what shows were coming out and what time they would be on. Because, I mean, our lives really revolved around television shows because we didn't have VCRs back then. You couldn't tape them. And so you had to be home to watch a specific show. So that was really kind of a big deal. Things have changed quite a bit, but I think we do have a nice little lineup of fall TV this year. And so we're going to get into that topic. But before we do that, we're going to raise our glass and a toast because we know you don't have to be a blood relative to love your relative. So cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
My glass is pretty full.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Dangerously close to my computer. There we go.
All right.
And as I mentioned, so fall TV used to kick off at a very specific time. It was about mid-September when ABC, NBC, and CBS ruled the world. But now we have shows dropping all the time, limited series, and Hulu has this series, and Netflix has that series. So it can be kind of hard to keep track of everything. And so we do have two foundational pieces. And so we will link those in the description box if you are watching here on YouTube. And the first one is What to Watch This Fall, NPR 924. And so that really kind of, I mean, Kelly, you source that. So that gives us really kind of a lineup of all the different channels, correct?
Yeah, so that was that article was published in September, and it's by Eric Dagans, Aisha Harris, and Linda Holmes, and it's basically just their roundup of they're all TV critics, and it's just their roundup of what they think are worth watching,
What they like, which is nice. So, and we're doing our little mini roundup here too.
Yeah.
It's kind of loosey goosey format today, just touching on what are our favorite shows and what we have been binge watching because this is a time of year also when the days get shorter, the nights get longer, and so I'm much more apt to binge watch TV. But the other foundational piece that we are referring to is What to Watch Fall 2024, and that was released by CNN in October of 8/24. So again, we'll have those.
August. Yeah.
What did I say? October? Yeah, it's not even October yet. Hello.
We haven't made it to
Hello.
October yet.
I'm already in October, but okay, ladies. Well, let's kick it off. And let's see what I'm going to go to Kelly first because you are our resident TV expert. You really are. You consume
I watch a lot of
TV.
TV.
You do. You consume a lot of TV and you really are in the know.
Yeah.
So what is on your list or did you find anything from these two articles that you decided to tune into?
I did. The shows that I've sourced from those two articles, though, are things that are mostly starting in October and November. Because some of the stuff I'd already been tuned into, like The Old Man, the season 2 of The Old Man on FX. That's a TV show that stars Jeff Bridges.
Right.
And I really enjoyed season 1. So season 2 came out, so I've been catching up with that.
It's very good.
It is really good.
I thoroughly enjoyed it last.
So he's
season.
like an ex-CIA operative, and
Is it like a drama or?
Yeah, it's kind of like action
Mystery
drama,
too.
more drama, but he has a daughter. The premise is he's retired, his wife has passed away, and his daughter works for the FBI. And so it's just kind of them reconnecting and him getting drawn back into CIA work. John Lithgow is also in it, and then it's a really interesting show. It's got a lot of interesting twists and turns, kind of keeps you guessing. So so season 2's been good so far. I've only watched a couple of the episodes, but it started on September 12th, and that's on Hulu.
Okay, The Old Man. So who else was in season 1? So it was Jeff Bridges and was it John Lithgow?
John
So
Lithgow.
those were the two opposing characters then.
Yeah, I mean they're old CIA partners. I think John Lithgow is he still is at the at the CIA. He's more
At-
high level, like
right.
kind of a boss.
Mhm.
And I think they have kind of a contentious relationship, but all in all, they have tremendous respect for each other and
Mhm.
everything like that. So yeah,
Mhm.
their relationship is interesting to see unfold
Mhm.
also.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's what I liked about season 1.
Mhm.
And that's why it's not typically, I mean, it's not categorized as a mystery, but I felt it somewhat was a mystery because
Mhm.
every week you learned something new
Yeah.
from their backstory.
Yeah, and
So
it was very mysterious.
it was a puzzle they had to
Yeah.
really piece together. So
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. So
Mhm.
far you're liking season 2.
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, not very far into it, but yeah, so far it's interesting, and it seems to be kind of holding up the same level of mystery and kind of cliffhanger
Mhm.
that they did in the first season. So that's
Mhm.
always nice to see when a show comes back and they're maintaining that same level of
Mhm.
interest and
That
intrigue.
pacing.
Mhm.
Yes. And still some more clues to be
Yeah,
revealed.
yeah.
Which is kind of nice. Well,
Yes,
good.
we'll see how it goes.
Well,
Nice.
Chelsea, what have you been watching recently?
I just finished I guess it's the 4th season of Emily in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
Which what a, to me the acting is it's.
I think a lot of people tune in for the fashion.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say,
Mhm.
I feel like the fashion, and it's just kind of a cute show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those shows that you can put on and just not even like think about what you're watching. Like, you don't really have to think about anything.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about, I love a good scary movie as much as the next person, but
Mhm.
sometimes it's like you just want to sit down and
Mm-hmm.
relax.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. You don't want to be at the edge of your seat. You just want to
Exactly.
sit down and enjoy something.
It's a
So,
fun
Mhm.
but
show.
it's been, and I kind of got into deep dive with like Lily Collins,
Mhm.
who plays Emily,
Mhm.
and kind of learned a little bit about her backstory, which I didn't actually know any of her
Mhm.
backstory. And
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people are saying like, oh, she's like a Nepo baby, and
Uh-huh.
she comes from like all of this money, and
Uh-huh.
and then like that she's like the next Audrey Hepburn because like she looks identical to her,
Uh-huh.
which is true. I mean, so it's interesting.
In some regards, I think. I mean, she's Phil Collins' daughter, and
Yeah.
he's a super rock star from
Mhm.
the 70s and 80s and 90s. So yes. But I mean,
Yeah.
I think she's held her own in this role.
Oh, for
I
sure.
do.
Yeah, no, I
Mm-hmm.
think she's held her own. And then what's the supporting character? Well, I guess I don't know if it's supporting character, but the girl that's the singer in the show.
Oh, Mindy's the name of her
Mindy.
character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She's been interesting to follow and like see them in interviews on the outskirts just because they I guess have a really good friendship outside. They're
Oh.
like best friends outside of the show.
Oh, that's nice. I always like to
And
hear
then
that.
obviously best friends inside of the show. And
Mhm.
so
They
it
have a good
seems-
energy. You can kind of
yeah.
tell that they
Mhm.
must have. It's more than just acting. Their friendship.
Yeah.
You know.
Mhm.
So I think
Mhm.
that's kind of what makes it good in the show is that they
Mhm.
actually are friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just finished that and
Well, I binge watched the second season. So they divided into 2 parts,
Mhm.
season 4. So
oh
the
yeah.
first part, I wasn't that crazy about season 4.
The first
It
part
was kind of like, It was
yeah.
kind of like, but it was fine. I mean, things moved along. It just
Yeah.
wasn't that great. But the second part, I really thoroughly enjoyed.
Yeah.
And they introduced a new character,
Mhm.
Mhm.
Marcello,
Mhm.
which I'm rooting for.
I know, I
So
am too.
everybody's rooting for them. So I binge watched season 2. So I was with a friend of mine
Yeah.
at the Tybee house, and so we just sat down and watched all. I think there were like 5 or 6 episodes.
5. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just zipped through all of them,
Yeah.
and at the end, we just looked at each other and we're like, if they don't let her be with Marcello,
Yeah.
I know.
we will be so angry because
Well-
if she goes back to that French chef, I'm like, no.
Yeah, I don't think that they will because I
I
think
hope
I think
not.
what lagged so much about the first half of season 4 was that it felt like they just had to tie up the loose ends with
Mm-hmm.
the French chef
Mm-hmm.
and
But they haven't like they keep bringing him.
I know.
back
I know, but I
in.
think
That's
but
what
I
I'm
but
just
I also
like-
think because their lives are so entwined. He's a client. They live
Mhm.
across the hall or different floors from
Yeah.
each other. Like
Mhm.
I kind of think that they've tried to untangle them as being in a romantic relationship, but still tried to like keep a little bit of cliffhangerness with him going
Yeah.
off to Rome at the end,
Mhm.
and then maybe him trying to win her back. We don't know, but I do think that they're gonna wrap up that
I hope so.
that romantic.
so.
I hope
yeah,
so because Darren
relationship.
Starr is the writer producer, and he
Mhm.
was the writer producer for Sex and the City, and I saw similarities
Oh
with the
yeah,
last
between
season
Carrie
with
and
Carrie, and
Yeah.
she was in love with Mikhail Baryshnikov. I can't remember what the name of his character was, but then they went off to Paris,
Yeah.
and then of course
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Big came back into it, and then they rode off into the sunset,
Well, they
which
had.
was
But I wanted,
fine,
I
but
did want
don't
Big to
do
end
that
up.
this time.
But yeah, this time I very much
Mm-hmm.
want her to be with
I'm
the
like,
new guy.
give
Yeah.
her a new
Because
start,
actually,
give her a fresh
the whole
start.
ski scene, like that actually kind of irritated like
Yes.
me for her.
Yeah,
Like, who would
I
do
know.
Yeah.
I know. Bye.
that?
I'll be here for you. Oh, wait. No, I won't.
Well, I think because Emily is moving to Rome in the series, I
Mhm.
think that we'll still get a little bit of the French chef like trying to win her back or something, but
Uh-huh.
I do think that it's really kind of curtains for
I
him
hope
and that
so.
character.
I really do. I
Yeah.
mean,
For their
if anything,
relationship.
they should have just brought Alfie back, 'cause I really liked Alfie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was a little disappointed that he doesn't really have a major role in the show anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked him too.
But yes, but I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah,
And now it's
it's a
going
lot
to
of
be
fun.
set in Rome. So great backdrops for next year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Okay. So I have been watching actually a couple of things, but one was a new show and Adam Brody stars in it and Kristen Bell, and it's called Nothing. What is it called? Nothing Like This?
No one wants this.
Or No One Wants
Oh,
This.
is that on Netflix?
No
I saw
One
that.
Wants
This
This.
is my new and
Mhm.
noteworthy for an upcoming episode because I
I-
just watched it yesterday.
good?
I know, I saw
Yeah,
it.
it's really cute.
So cute.
Yeah.
So cute. I just stumbled on it quite by accident the other night when I was just, flipping the channels.
Mhm.
And I had no idea what it was about. So Kristen Bell is a podcaster. So she does a podcast with her sister. So it's very interesting because all of the shows that I've been watching recently, they have these podcasters that are just going to be making gazillions of dollars. So I'm like, is that in store for us with this podcast? But anyways, so she and her sister are podcasters, and she is very unlucky in love or chooses poorly.
Mhm.
And then she goes to this party with a friend of hers. It's a dinner party, and so she meets this rabbi. So he's a rabbi, and that's Adam Brody's character. And I just have to say, he's absolutely adorable in that role.
He really
it's
is.
just perfect. I mean, they're both perfect in their roles. They
Mhm.
really are. There's a great supporting cast as well. I'm not quite finished with season 1. Have you finished the whole
Oh
season?
yes, I did.
Okay.
How
The
is it
episodes
like
are
a
only,
short
like-
series or?
It's very short.
There's 10 episodes,
Mhm.
and each episode is like
Okay.
20, 24 minutes.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's easy. That's
So
an
it's
easy watch.
pretty quick to
Mhm.
zip
Yeah.
through.
Yes, it's very consumable, and her family is hilarious.
Yeah.
And I mean, his is too.
Yeah.
He is the traditional Jewish family. They're like, no, you can't date a Gentile,
Yeah.
which is very cute. And his older brother is very cute too in the show.
Yes, he was in
Veep.
Veep. Yeah,
Mhm.
I really like him a lot. He's
Mhm.
a very funny, tall person.
Very tall.
Very tall, yeah.
He's very tall, but I enjoyed that. So that's what I started binge watching, and so I'm looking forward to continuing on with that
Mhm.
What is that
season.
called? No one likes you, or
And nobody wants this.
Nobody wants this.
nobody
Right.
wants
Nobody
this?
wants
Okay.
this.
It's either
which-
it's no one wants this. It's
Mhm.
either nobody or no one, but nobody wants this.
Mhm.
Okay, I'll
Mhm.
put that on my list.
Because they don't, his family for sure really doesn't want him to be involved with her
Oh,
because
okay.
she is a Gentile and he's a rabbi.
Yeah.
And so it does present some challenges. And that's what is so cute about some of these episodes and one in particular, where they are caught in a sex store
Mhm.
because she had to go find something for one of her podcasts. So they're both in there. And then one of his members of the temple recognizes him. So they start up a conversation and he thinks he's dead in the water. And lo and behold,
Yeah.
Mr. Goldberg wasn't with his wife.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
anyway,
okay.
yeah. So he's thinking that his career is ruined, but then it
Yeah.
actually his career gets a little boost because I don't know, it was just cute. And they handled it very well. I thought it was very tastefully done. And
Yeah, it's very cute.
Mhm.
The subject, like her podcast that she has with her sister, is called "Nobody Wants This."
Oh,
the name
is
of the
that-
show is called "Nobody Wants
okay,
This."
that's the name of the podcast.
Um,
I didn't know that.
But most of the podcast is about
Mhm.
sex,
Mhm,
Oh, okay.
basically.
mhm.
So it's a little bit controversial,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Right.
yes,
Yes.
very honest, and
Yes.
so that
And then
causes
you have
some problems for her.
then you have a rabbi that's dating the podcaster that's talking about sex all the time. So yes, it does. It causes some interesting situations, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been watching. So do we know what the major networks are bringing out? Do we
I
know?
don't actually, because really the focus is a lot on Hulu, Apple TV, Disney Plus, and HBO Max.
Mm-hmm.
Paramount Network has a lineup of shows coming up for fall, Yellowstone being the standout
Mm-hmm.
one of that group.
Do we know when Yellowstone's coming
November
out?
10th.
Okay, not until November.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's there's a couple of shows that I am curious to see. One of them has already started on Hulu. It's called How to Die Alone, and it stars this woman, Natasha Rothwell, who's a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
And the premise of the show is that she has a near death experience and then realizes that she needs to like live her life more fully.
Mm-hmm.
So I think she's going on adventures and trying things that she had been normally quite afraid of.
Mm-hmm.
So that looks cute and funny.
Mm-hmm. And this is a new one.
It started on September 13th.
And
so you
what
can
channel
catch
is
up.
that?
Hulu.
Hulu. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
I missed that.
Yeah. And then another thing that I've actually been looking forward to, and I might have to renew my Disney Plus. Maybe I'll do a free subscription or something and watch this.
I think if you have Hulu, that you can.
I don't think the plan that I have includes Disney
Oh,
Plus. It may or may not,
I
because
know
I've had this
whatever
Hulu forever, and so
whatever plan we have,
you
we
get
can.
it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the follow up to WandaVision, I don't know. You've probably never seen WandaVision. I don't know if you've
I haven't
seen
seen
it.
No, the Agatha
Mm-hmm.
show. What is it
It's
called?
called Agatha All Along.
Okay.
So the WandaVision was a Marvel show that was taking two of the characters from the Marvel movies that had gotten married. And it was a really clever show because it's been years now since I watched it, but every episode they were set in a different time on television.
Mm-hmm.
So they would have one episode where it was like I Love Lucy, and then it was, I think it was in black and white, and then they kind of jump forward, so then they've got a show that's like them in the 70s and kind of Brady Bunch, and so it goes along. It was a really, really strange, different, and interesting way to tell the story of this show.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the characters at the end that you find out is kind of, she's their nosy neighbor all along, kind of like Mrs. Kravitz from Bewitched.
Mm-hmm.
But come to find out, spoiler alert, this character is played by Catherine Hahn, and she's like she's the person that they need to be defeating.
Oh, uh-huh.
So now this new one, Agatha All Along, is that evil witch character that now has her own show. And I think she's kind of been sent to a place where she's kind of having to relive some of the same over and over again type of stuff that the original characters did. I'm not too clear on the exact premise, but it sounds interesting, and I felt like WandaVision was so clever that this one could fall in with that.
They've
And
been
think
promoting it a lot.
I was going to say, I've seen a lot of hype on that.
Yeah, and I really like Catherine Hahn. She was really cute in WandaVision. Fun to see her be a baddie. So
yeah,
I might have to check that out. And then also in that same world, but on HBO Max, is The Penguin with Colin Farrell, who looks completely unrecognizable. I would never guess that Colin Farrell is playing that character from the previews. Yeah, he does not even look.
I haven't heard of that one.
So it's basically the origin story of the Penguin, or a possible origin story of the Penguin. I don't know how they're couching that. But that started on September 19th. So there's some catching up to do with that one too, if that's interesting. But it sounds like I'm hesitant. I'm not into superhero and comic stuff. But there have been a few movies and shows like the WandaVision show and the Joker movies that I've actually really liked. And it sounds like this Colin Farrell as the Penguin is kind of following along the same lines as the Joker. Not insofar as it's like a very dark story. Like it's, I don't think it's quite in that vein, but just in terms of like quality story without it being all about superhero stuff.
Yeah.
Which when they can infuse it with a lot more than just superhero stuff, then I become interested.
Right. Well, that was I think, what do I want to say about the Joker, the movie that Joaquin.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Thank you. I'm really stumbling over this right now, but I don't typically like shows like that, but I was really fascinated. He did such a good job with his portrayal of the Joker and going down that very dark side of how this character came to be. So if
Yeah.
that's what they're doing with the penguin, it kind of
Yeah, we'll
sounds a
see.
little bit that
We'll see.
it's going to be like that. So where it goes
Yeah.
back to their roots and how,
hmm
how everything came into play. So
Yeah,
very
I think
interesting.
it's going to be, and because it's an HBO Max production, I think there's,
Mm-hmm.
plenty of
Mm-hmm.
money behind it to really
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
put that exclamation point on the quality and storytelling and
Mm-hmm.
all of that.
Well, and
So
if he's unrecognizable, so that they have a really great,
makeup, yeah.
yes, makeup artist, which is nice. And a lot of times, I mean, that's what really makes a show. Your set design and your
hmm
makeup, or like Emily in Paris. I mean, part of the reason
Mm-hmm.
I want to tune into that show is just to
The fashion.
catch up on all the fashion. Some of it's
Amazing.
very outrageous, but
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the
it's
fun of it, though. I
it's
mean,
done
it's
very
very Sex
well.
and the City-ish when
Yeah.
it comes to that.
Yeah,
So
but it's done very well.
yeah,
So that sounds good.
yeah. So there's a few more.
So I'm just curious because there again, back in the old days when I was growing up, there were only 3 television networks. So it's
hmm
very easy to keep track of what your show, what channel it was on and what
Yeah.
time it was on and all of that. But now with so many different streaming services and different shows
hmm
that are popping up, how do you keep track of your shows?
Well, I have Apple TV, and
Mm-hmm.
so I actually get, if I check mark a show into adding it to my list, I
Mm-hmm.
get notifications when new episodes are on.
Okay. Through your
So
app
that's one
then?
way. Yeah. And you can have the notifications on your phone. You can, when you turn on your television, it will kind of it'll put all of the things that are on your list kind
Mm-hmm.
of in in sequence of their new episodes. So
Right.
you don't have to kind of like try to figure out where you left off because it's all keeping track of that for you.
Right.
I
Well,
just freestyle it.
You
mm-hmm.
do?
I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, what have I? And
Mm-hmm.
then I'll just go, like, if I know I'm watching a show on Hulu and I just go, I wonder if there's a new episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just go on Hulu and check it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if there is, then
Well,
I'll
the
watch
beauty
it.
of 2024 TV is there's so much streaming. There's so much
Yeah.
where
Mhm.
they release all the episodes all at once. There's very few TV shows that release week after week after week. So you don't
Mhm.
really have to know
Yeah.
when a TV show is going to be on, like when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Because you had to wait until the summertime. If you missed a show, I mean, that was it. You had to
Yeah.
catch up with your friends. I mean, somebody had to fill in the blanks for you.
Yeah.
But these days, the beauty of modern TV is you have access to it all the time,
Yeah.
which is nice.
It's true.
Yes. So you can stream it, you can binge watch it lots of different ways. But I was just
Mhm.
wondering how to keep track of things because every once in a while they do have those shows. There was one um, this summer, Jake Gyllenhaal was in it, and they released that one episode at a time.
Yeah.
Presumed Innocent was in.
Yeah.
We talked about
Oh,
that
yeah.
briefly
Apple
this
TV.
summer.
Yeah, I think the
Normally
only
Hulu does that. They'll do
Yeah.
one because
Mhm.
like Only
Episodic.
Murders in the Building, they do that.
Right. They do. Mhm.
Unless, I mean, I guess you find like there's been a few shows on Hulu that I found after
Mhm.
they've released them all, and then you
Mhm.
can binge watch them, but you have
Right.
to wait.
Which
Yeah.
is nice. I mean, at some point, you can catch up with everything.
Yeah, it's pretty. I mean, HBO, I think mostly always does episodic release. Netflix typically does the entire season at one time.
Or part 1 and
Mhm.
2
Or
if
part
they
1 and
decide that
2.
they want to be
Mhm.
annoying
Like
about
Emily
it.
in Paris, yeah.
Mhm.
Hulu, it just
Bridgerton.
depends because like The Bear, they do that all at one time, but like The Old Man is episodic.
Mhm.
So I think
Okay.
it just kind of depends.
Mhm.
But one of the things that's come back to Netflix that is actually episodic and is Great British Bake Off, which
Mhm.
when they bring, I love that they do this actually because it used to be the case where it would air in Britain and you'd have to wait a few months for it to
Mhm.
make its way here. But what they
Oh.
started doing last year is it airs on, I think it airs in Britain on like a Wednesday or something, and
Mhm.
now Netflix has it in America that
Mhm.
following Friday.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
That's
So
nice.
you only have to avoid social media for 3 days.
Rather than months.
Yeah,
Rather than-
before you can watch.
I just started watching that show.
I love it.
I know. I've
Yeah.
heard you talk about it for years, and I
Mhm.
finally tuned in. I
Yeah.
think it was season 11. It's super
Okay.
cute.
Yeah, I love it. So season
Mhm.
12 just started last week. So
Mm.
episode 1 is on Netflix now
Okay.
for
Uh-huh.
us in the US.
Yes, they just get bakers together
Mhm.
and then they just let them go.
Yep.
They have different challenges, which is fun. I'm always impressed with shows like that because they really do have to think on their feet because
Yeah.
they're
Oh
just
yeah.
given, okay, here's your challenge. And then they have like 2 minutes to gather all their ingredients, then decide what they're going to
Well, and some
do.
of them are like really complicated where they
Mm-hmm.
have to
Well,
like,
It
you know,
is.
construct the
yeah.
house and
They
Yes.
get more and more
the
elaborate
details.
Uh-huh.
with their stuff every year, but
Mm-hmm.
so each episode is 3 challenges. The first challenge and the third challenge are things that the bakers could have practiced at home.
Mm-hmm.
So they get the parameters and the
Okay.
challenge, and they can practice it at home. But the second challenge is a mystery challenge, and they typically get the ingredients, no instructions, and then just told what they need to, what the
Yeah.
finished product has to be.
Okay.
So that's a really fun one
Yeah.
because it's just wild.
Yes. I
Because a
would.
lot of these bakers are like, I don't even know what that dessert is. Like, I've
Right.
never even
Yeah.
heard of that before.
I know.
So it's really cute.
Yeah.
And that's part of the appeal. And I
Mhm.
love Prue.
I know, isn't
She's
she great?
adorable,
Yeah.
absolutely adorable.
Yeah.
And she was one of my fashion icons. I did a YouTube video probably a year or so ago
Mhm.
about women over 50,
Mm.
fashion icons, and I loved her and her glasses, and
Yeah.
Mm.
she's always in bright colors and
Her
just
necklaces
yes.
are
Uh-huh.
very,
They
always very
are.
statement making. Yeah.
Yes. And who's the other
Paul Hollywood.
Paul? Thank you.
Mhm.
Paul Hollywood?
Mhm.
His last name really is
It
Hollywood?
really is.
Oh
Yeah.
wow,
Paul
that's
Hollywood.
crazy.
Yeah. And Prue Leith. And
to
I've been
be.
watching the show since it was Mary Berry was the female co-host
Oh,
or
before
female
Prue
judge before Prue.
took over.
Mhm.
Okay.
But Mary Berry is still alive and kicking it. She retired from Bake Off, but she's still writing cookbooks and
Is she?
still doing it. Yeah,
Okay.
she's great.
Mm.
Well, I'm thoroughly enjoying it, and I
Yeah.
have quite a few seasons that I can binge
Oh my
watch
gosh,
this.
you have a lot actually.
I know.
Because I think they're numbered differently in the U.S. than they are. Like there's, I think it's like a year off or something like that.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
little bit different.
Okay.
But yeah, I say just go back to the beginning and start.
Okay.
So much
Mhm.
fun.
I should do
I
that.
love it.
That's my challenge. So, with today, though, I mean, I was just thinking about this. How do you keep track of all of your streaming services? I mean, okay, there's HBO, there's Hulu, there's Netflix. I mean, are you subscribing to all of these channels? How do you like house all of your um, apps and things like
Mhm.
that? Do you have like one? Like in the old days, it used to be. I mean, well, in the way old days, it was just the 3 stations. Then you had PBS and all that, and then we had cable TV, and then everybody. Then the cable man would come and set up
Mhm.
your cable, and then you had your remote, and away you went. But how do you manage all of your subscriptions? I'm just curious. And do you think that maybe cable is better?
Well, I think Chelsea mentioned bundling, right? So
Yeah.
we do that with Hulu too.
Mhm.
But the things that we get through Hulu are like Showtime and Stars
Mhm.
Network.
Mhm.
And that was like a promotional thing.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I would have had those two anyway because there were shows that I was paying attention to, like Outlanders on Stars.
Mhm.
And there have been some really good episodic Stars shows.
Mhm.
But bundling is an easy way to kind of keep things all consolidated.
Mhm.
But I don't know how Roku works. I imagine it's very similar, but Apple TV, it just looks like you have apps, that you can click into.
Mhm.
And so like for the Hulu app, I can click into that and then I can go to my or my hubs or something,
Mhm.
and then I can see
Mhm.
the bundled
Right.
services there.
I mean,
Um,
on the remote, you can like literally talk to
Siri,
Siri and
right.
say, whatever, find only murders in the building if you don't know where
Right.
it's at,
Where
and
it's
then it'll
at.
pull it up,
Mhm.
which is kind of nice.
It is
Mhm.
very nice.
So,
Yeah.
but the only annoying thing that I found about that, because sometimes, like, there was one time that we wanted to watch a movie, and Andrew did that, and we actually own the movie because he was like, "Oh, I know that we own this, but I
Mm.
can't remember where it's at."
Mhm.
And the first thing it pulled up was rent or buy it here.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
it didn't
he's like,
search
"I
your
know that we
library.
own this." And then I
Mhm.
think he ended up going to Apple TV and he pulled it up and he's like, "Yeah, we own it."
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm. That's the one thing that does get a little bit challenging. And I just remember like this summer when the Olympics came out, it's like, okay, if I want to watch it in real time, then you
Mhm.
you you have to be subscribed to this app
mhm,
or that channel or
Have
whatever.
some kind of live
Mhm.
live TV.
Yes.
mhm,
I think that just gets a little confusing for
Yeah.
me anyway. and I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine, and we really were talking about maybe going back to cable and having everything
Oh,
housed.
really?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
That
Uh-huh.
seems like that would be way harder
Oh,
for
I don't
me.
know because they're offering a lot of
I bet they
the
are.
same benefits that streaming channels offer, and then you don't then I'm not paying Stars this and Hulu this and
Yeah.
Netflix this because that also gets to be it's like I don't even know how much I'm paying on a monthly basis. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not one of these people that have their Excel spreadsheet
Yeah.
up and then they can see at a moment's notice. How
Right.
much
Right.
I'm not that person,
Yeah.
especially not now that I'm on my own.
Hmm.
It's much more loosey goosey, but I'm just like, yeah, I just really wonder if it might be. I don't have a problem like going into my TV and finding the apps because I have Apple TV and it's all housed there. But
Mhm.
it's just like, yes,
Keeping
okay,
track of what you've got.
I'm paying
Yeah.
Netflix this and I'm paying YouTube TV this and ad free that, and I don't have. I mean,
Hmm.
it gets a little bit complicated. I
Mhm.
think
Yeah, it
that
certainly can.
that is the one thing that.
And I would just say, like, if you watch TV as much as I do,
Uh
you may be less
huh.
inclined to do this, but I think one of the things that is smart for people to do is to audit your consumption, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And if you have Apple, and if you have an iPhone, you can look at in your iCloud, like your Apple ID, you can look at your subscriptions,
Mm-hmm.
and it'll list everything that you're currently subscribed to,
Mm-hmm.
and you can very easily disconnect any of those subscriptions at any time
Right.
through your phone.
Through your
And
phone.
that's a really easy way
Yes.
to kind of audit.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at that list and you say, gosh, I haven't watched HBO in like years and I don't care, go ahead and delete it. And it'll
Mhm.
just,
Mhm.
the next billing cycle, it'll just end at the end of that, and that's it.
Yeah.
So it is easy to audit,
Mm-hmm.
but you just have to think about what you're
Yeah.
focusing on, like what you care about seeing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say like the most that I watch is I feel like I do Netflix a lot, Hulu a lot, and then I do occasionally do Apple TV because there are some shows on there that I
Mm-hmm.
like. So I would say
Mhm.
that those are my top 3.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Um I like that we have Disney Plus as an option through Hulu because
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I do want to watch something
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
on there that is only offered on Disney
Right.
Plus.
Yeah.
Right.
So I do like that as an option, but I would say if we didn't have it as an option through Hulu, I probably wouldn't have it
Wouldn't miss
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah.
because it's like what okay, they have Hocus Pocus that I want to watch once a year. It's like I'm sure I
Right.
could find that somewhere else
You need to
if I
buy
wanted
it
to.
in
Actually,
your
Yeah.
just buy it.
library.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I did last time, but it's just
Uh,
like okay, for one thing or Sound of Music,
Uh-huh.
it's like I could just
Well, who do you think has the best prestige TV? Because there again, I'll just go back to the old days. We had the Nielsen ratings,
mhm.
and so you saw like which network was
Have the
killing it.
better stuff. Yeah.
Like NBC at one particular point in time. I mean, they had the Thursday night lineup.
The
They had
must see TV
they
Thursday.
had Cosby Show, and they had Cheers, and they had oh gosh, now I can't think of what the whole lineup was, but it was it was
Well, they had their
powerhouse.
Friends and Seinfeld and
Mm-hmm.
ER.
Oh.
That was the
Mhm.
Thursday night lineup, was like Friends, Seinfeld, ER, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that was a big night of TV.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like all of my shows on here are from all different
Right?
literally 3 different
Mhm.
services.
Yeah. So I'm just really curious as to how they monitor what's a success and what's
Well,
not
I mean,
anymore.
it's so much easier than ever because people don't need Nielsen boxes in their house to
Mhm.
tell the
Yeah.
networks what we're watching. They know it all from the analytics of what we click on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
So do you think they're much more apt to nix a show
oh yeah.
like right away? Like I
Mhm.
just remember Jerry Seinfeld. That's one of the most wildly popular television shows ever in the history of TV, and
Mhm.
it had a very slow start.
Yeah.
I mean, NBC, honestly, they just stood by that show probably for the first 2 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that happens anymore, or
Oh,
do you think
yeah.
they're much more apt at?
I've seen a
We're
few
done.
shows where they weren't, and even if they were received well, they maybe didn't get the numbers that they needed to get to survive a second season,
Mm-hmm.
or to survive a first season to make it to a second season. So whatever XYZ nixes the show, and then because it's available to stream the first season, it gets a huge following
Mhm.
after it's already been canceled.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And there have been shows that have been brought back on different networks.
Mhm.
Like I think Netflix brought back a show that had previously been on AMC or one of the other cable networks,
Mm-hmm.
and years later too.
Mm-hmm.
So there are shows like this. I think Alex and I just recently turned me on to a show that was on Amazon that had like 2 seasons or something like that. It got canceled after that, but the fan base for it grew so much subsequently that, you know, they haven't talked about bringing it back, but Outer Limits, was it?
Outer Limits?
Outer Range. Yeah.
Okay.
Josh Brolin. It was a really good kind of supernatural show, kind of a time travel. Yeah.
Oh, a supernatural Yellowstone.
But it takes place in Montana or Wyoming. They live on a ranch.
Josh Brolin.
Yeah, it's good.
I think me and Andrew really started that, but
did you?
We got like halfway through the first episode and we were like, no, but maybe it's one of those that you have to kind of
a little slow
keep
burn.
watching.
Well, and I think that, you know, that's what happens is like, I think there's this moment of prestige TV where they got to be able to capture their if they want to keep the show going, they've got to be able to capture, it's got to move at a pace that people aren't going to be like telling each other, you just get through episode 4 and then you'll love it. It's like nobody wants to hear that because nobody wants to get through no one wants to wait that long, right?
Well, especially in our attention deficit mentality these days.
There's so many other things to watch that if you're like, you have to get 4 hours in before it gets good, people are like, forget it.
It's like 2 seconds. They give you like 2 seconds.
Some of the stuff has been really rewarding to actually do that. And then I've gone back and watched the beginning to see, was it really that slow or did they just have a hard time
finding their audience
or finding their voice or whatever. And that's the case sometimes too. But I have a tendency to start something and stick with it unless it's just absolute dog shit from the first episode.
Yes. You're very faithful about that.
I am, yeah, and I'll stick with something because I have faith in these storytellers and these people putting their names to things and going out there and putting something out. I'm willing to give them a benefit of the doubt.
Well, I think a case in point is Schitt's Creek.
Yes, I was literally about to say that the first 2 episodes, 2 or 3, I thought to myself, I cannot watch this.
Yeah.
But I also, looking back, I think that I don't think I fully understood what they were trying to do. So the first 2 episodes, I'm like, what is this? Like, why are they talking weird? What are they trying to do? And then by the third one, I was like, oh,
I get it.
I get it
now.
Yeah.
But the good thing about that show was it was produced by a Canadian broadcasting network, and it wasn't until Netflix, I believe it was Netflix that picked them up, and then we were able to stream them.
Yeah, it was available for streaming on Pop TV, I think it was.
Right, at the very beginning. Yeah. And then at some point, then that's when it really catapulted into fame. Yeah. And it really just, then you swept the Emmys, and I mean, it's just such a
great show.
I'm glad.
Such a great show. I'm so happy that that's what happened. And I'm actually glad that it was under the radar screen for a little bit because they really, and I agree with you, Chelsea, I think that was a show at the very beginning. I really wasn't sure what was going on. It was very chaotic, but that's exactly what was going on in their lives. Yeah. So when you go back, it's kind of like The Bear. The Bear has done this in several episodes, and that's exactly what they wanted you to feel. Yeah. Which is kind of risky.
Crazy, yeah.
Because we're not necessarily willing to go into a very chaotic world, and sort that out.
And think of it as entertaining. I'm glad that people caught up to Schitt's Creek before it got canceled because I think it did get a moment in the sun that it got to enjoy while they were all still doing it.
Oh yeah,
it did. Well, it didn't get canceled. They set out to only have so many seasons.
Yeah,
which I loved about more. That.
Yeah, that
because
was the show that
they had a beginning and they had an end, and they had their characters go through a trajectory, and I was really pleased. And it was like they ended it, and it ended just the way that it should have.
Yeah, it did.
Because sometimes comedies can go on and on and on, and like Seinfeld, which I absolutely loved. They're again one of the best shows ever, but the last 2 seasons, it was like they just really became caricatures of themselves, and I think that's what can happen with a comedy because you just don't have that space to really have their characters evolve.
Right.
So sure. No, they did a great job with that show.
So cute.
But that's a perfect example of a show that in the first couple episodes you're like, I don't know about this. But I am glad that people stuck with it because
one of the best shows out there.
Yeah, it really
perfectly cast, perfectly written, and there again, as I said, I just love the trajectory of each of the characters, and we got to see that. So, which network do you think has the best prestige shows? I mean, because we do have these, we have Netflix, and we have HBO, and we have
I feel like
Hulu, and
Netflix
so.
has done a really good turnaround. I feel like they were on the struggle bus, I
Well,
would
I think,
say,
yeah, I
a
think
couple
Mhm.
years ago.
Mhm.
their bread and butter has really become romantic comedy, like kind of fluffy romantic comedy
Well,
shows and movies.
they just brought out, which I just started watching this, but that Monsters show about the two brothers. Have you seen that?
Oh, the
The
Oh, the
Menendez.
Lyle and
Menendez.
Eric
Menendez. Yeah,
Menendez.
That's
so like
right.
true crime and romance. Like I feel like I hmm, I could get dinged for this, but I personally don't feel like Netflix is turning out prestige television the way that HBO Max or Apple TV.
I would say Apple TV. Like, I think Netflix had a turnaround, but
Mhm.
I do agree. I mean, they have good shows, but
Mhm.
if I had to pick between like Hulu or like Netflix or Apple TV, which those are probably the top three that I watch, I would say
Mhm.
Apple TV.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But only like because I feel like Apple TV, it's like you've got like I really liked Severance, Ted Lasso
Hmm.
was great.
Mhm.
The Morning Show
Mhm.
was really good until I felt like it wasn't good.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, they had some good.
AMC is another, that's
Mhm.
a cable channel that was
Mhm.
actually at the forefront of what we now call prestige television because they had Breaking Bad and Mad Men.
Mhm.
But they've continued to really
Mhm.
turn out wonderful prestige shows,
Mhm.
actually. So, and there again, though, you have to get the AMC app to see a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
But Netflix has picked up a couple of old AMC shows that have
Yeah,
been canceled on AMC
because they have
or
Breaking
finished
Bad on
out,
there.
and then
Mhm.
they'll bring it over. Even more
Mhm.
recent shows.
Mhm. Yeah,
Hmm?
FX.
FX is another really big prestige.
But how
Mhm.
many shows does FX produce?
Oh, a lot.
Do
Oh my
they?
gosh.
Do they? Okay. I need to pay a little bit more attention. I mean, I know,
Yeah.
back in the day, they've really brought
Well,
out.
I don't
because
think we had
the
FX or
old
AMC.
the old man is a
Oh, is
FX
it
on Hulu
FX?
show, The
Okay.
Bear.
I think sometimes I'm not, I guess, paying attention since I'm watching it through Hulu.
Right.
I'm not cognizant of that
Yeah,
that
Would you
FX is
consider The
the.
Bear prestige TV?
for sure.
Really?
Oh yeah,
I did not. I
for
could
sure.
not.
You didn't like it?
The last series, the last season, I was
The
like,
last season, I
I couldn't do it.
I would agree. I kind of struggled with the last season. I did, and a couple of the episodes
Hmm.
I wasn't all that crazy about. But I think it's a very groundbreaking show. And I think that they have really gone into the food industry in a
Yeah.
very thoughtful way, in a very real way,
Yeah.
but then brought it to life.
Hmm.
So
I think
I,
one of the biggest issues with that show too is the whole Emmy hubbub. I don't know if you heard about this at all, but they were categorizing it as a comedy.
oh,
So
really?
yeah, which it so clearly isn't. So it was this
Yeah, I wouldn't
big
No, I didn't know that.
categorize
hullabaloo
it as
over
that.
because
I haven't paid attention to the Emmys in a long time.
I think it was last year it swept all the comedy categories that it was nominated in, and yet there were actual comedies that totally should have won something,
Wow.
like Abbott
Right.
Elementary, or actual
Yes.
comedies that
Mm-hmm.
should have gotten something that didn't
Mm-hmm.
because the bear just swept it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe next year they might
Yeah.
Interesting.
reconsider that because it didn't win as many Emmys this year.
Uh-huh. Well, next year we should do a live streaming,
Yeah,
like
we should.
on some of these shows,
I agree.
like the Emmys, the
I was
Golden
thinking that as I was watching the
Globes.
red carpets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because as I said, I really haven't paid any attention to the award shows in the past few years.
Yeah.
I think probably since the pandemic,
Mhm.
and I'm kind of like, well, I'm really over the Hollywood and what they're producing, so I have zero interest in the Oscars. But I might be more apt with like the Emmys or Golden Globe. So we should think about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, that'd be kind of fun
So
to do that.
I just wanted to mention just a few more things
Mhm.
that people should maybe check out if they're so inclined before we wrap it up. Disclaimer is a new show that's coming out on Apple TV with Kate Blanchett. And I think this is probably the epitome of prestige television if you've got Kate Blanchett on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
So that premieres on October 11th. It looks really interesting from what I can tell from the previews. And I haven't really read much about it because I've kind of wanted to keep myself in the dark about what it's going on because it seems like a thriller mystery.
So is it a limited series? Is it a
It's
I
on
think
Apple
so.
movie?
TV, or
Mhm.
where'd you say it was on?
Apple
Apple.
TV.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
I think
disclaimer.
it's a limited series. Disclaimer.
Disclaimer.
Okay.
Yeah. And then Ken Burns. I don't know how many folks out there are loving Ken Burns and love him as much as we do at our house, but
Mm-hmm.
he's back with a new documentary, which always makes me excited because we've watched, I think we've probably worn holes in the DVDs of the Ken
Mm-hmm.
Burns documentaries that we
Mm-hmm.
have because we watch them so much.
Yeah.
But a new documentary series about Leonardo da Vinci on PBS, and that starts November 19th.
Oh, that could be very interesting.
Yes. And then the second season of the fantastic comedy Shrinking is back on Apple TV.
Yay! I've been waiting for that.
Yeah, October 16th.
Oh, wow.
Shrinking.
Mhm.
Never
Shrinking.
heard of that.
It's
Oh,
very
you have to
cute.
go check it out.
Harrison Ford and Jason
So
Segel
good.
are they're
Excellent. There's
psychologists or
Uh-huh.
psychiatrists,
Oh.
counselors, whatever. And
they're
Jason
shrinks.
Segel's
They're shrinks.
Jason Segel's wife had passed away, and so he's
Okay.
kind of dealing with.
Yes, he was on. Yeah, he was on the struggle bus for that, and he has a teenage daughter, and so it's not only so you see them in the office, at home. Very,
It's
I
very
mean
funny.
the cast is great. All the
Mhm.
supporting cast members. So Harrison Ford and Jason Segel are the stars, but
Mhm.
everybody else does a really terrific job
Yeah.
in their supporting roles. And it left on a cliffhanger last year, so I'm really curious to see what
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Add that to my list.
Should be good.
Oh, you'll like it.
It's really good.
It's very cute. It moves very, very quickly, and it's a happy show at the very,
Mhm.
even though they touch on very serious topics,
Mhm, they do.
it's a very happy show. So
Yeah.
I like that definitely. Anything
Yeah.
else on your radar screen for this fall?
I've got Severance season 2, which I think comes out. That's not really fall, but in January.
Okay, that's another thing that is interesting are the release dates on everything.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Only Murders in the Building. I've kind of started Monsters. I recently started this show called Tell Me Lies on Hulu.
You know,
Um,
I haven't heard of
they
that.
had a season 1, which I have watched, and I
Mhm.
guess the season 2, or I think I'm about to be done with season 1, but season 2 just came out, which is, I
Mhm.
guess, how it popped up onto my
Oh yeah.
radar. But
Right.
it's basically about college students and the drama of relationships, um, and then obviously a bunch of lies in
Yeah.
between
Mhm.
that.
Well, there
I
you
So
like
go.
it.
it's pretty good. I mean, it's
Uh-huh.
entertaining enough. And then this isn't, I mean, it's a more of a live show, but I've been watching Dancing with the Stars,
Mm-hmm.
which I've been
Mhm.
really enjoying. And I guess this is the most watched Dancing with the Stars that they've had in years.
Oh.
Oh, that's interesting. Why?
Because of the celebrities they picked. They picked that Ilona Mar, the
The
rugby
rugby player. Yeah.
Oh, uh-huh.
Steven, I can't pronounce his last name, but the gymnast, the male gymnast,
Oh, okay.
was
Okay.
on it. Anna Delvey was
Oh,
on it. She
wow.
just got voted off
Oh,
from
okay.
Inventing Anna.
Right?
So funny.
Okay.
Wow.
And it's just, yeah, like the people they picked were
Yeah.
very interesting.
Okay.
And so everyone's very invested in
Okay.
it this year.
That's
Well,
great.
I do like shows like that. And so I'll just give one plug before we wrap this up. So last year we were introduced to the Golden Bachelor, which
Mhm.
added on to the Bachelor franchise series because that's been going for over 20 years. I think it needed some fresh blood, so they decided to let the golden era
Mhm.
commence with the over 60 or definitely over 50, over 60. I think even last year they may have had, I think Gary was 70, I want to
Mm.
say,
Mm.
that who was a bachelor. But we kind of thought that show was kind of like, it was kind of like iffy.
Yeah.
But this year they have the Golden Bachelorette, and it's getting much better ratings. Again, like Dancing with the
Mhm.
Stars. So it really, I just tuned into the very first
Mhm.
episode just to see what was going on because I was with my girlfriend Lori
Yeah.
again, and we were binge watching things. And so it's nice to see. I mean, I'm 66, so it's really nice to see people of my generation get a second chance at love. And that's what the whole premise is.
Yeah.
Definitely for this year's
Mm-hmm.
The Golden Bachelorette. And I don't know if it's true with the Bachelor franchise, but it seems like the Bachelorette's always a little bit more popular. Would you say that's true?
I don't know. I haven't watched The Bachelor or The Bachelorette in a while.
Mhm.
I used to be really into it.
Uh-huh. A lot of
Um,
people have or
but
were at
Mhm.
yeah,
one point.
but I do think it's good that they kind of added in
Mhm.
this like golden bachelor, bachelorette
Mhm.
just to kind of like spice it up a little bit.
Right.
Mhm.
Because I mean, they had a lot of, I think they just had a lot of stuff happen with the host that then they
Yes,
like it was just
it's
a
been kind
lot.
of a wild ride.
So
It
they
has
needed
been.
that.
Mm-hmm.
But so the reason I thought of the Golden Bachelorette recently though is because she was actually um, there watching Dancing with the Stars live, and
Oh, okay.
Oh,
they
wow.
recognized her. They were like, "Oh,
Uh-huh.
this is what's her name?"
Joan Vassos.
Yeah, they
Mm-hmm.
were like, "Oh, Joan Vassos
Mm-hmm.
from the
Golden
Golden Bachelorette,"
Bachelorette. Uh-huh.
and they like showed her on.
Wow.
Yes. Well, then so my friend Lori, who knows everything about how to find things out, so she told me, "Oh, I'm going to go find out who won the Golden Bachelorette." And I'm like, "How? What do you mean? You can find out who won the
Mhm.
Bachelorette?" And she's like,
Oh,
"Oh yeah." She's
Reality
like,
Steve.
Reality Steve." She's like, "Oh," and which I had no idea. I'm like, you can have spoilers for everything.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's too bad.
because you can, I won't give anything away.
Yeah, I was like, "Don't give anything
Well,
away for the
and
people
by
that
the
are
time
watching."
this podcast airs, and I'm sure everything has been revealed. But I just did want to give a little plug for that because it's nice to see. It was very heartwarming to see,
Mhm.
and there were a lot of widows and widowers on the show,
Yeah.
and they did have a big heartbreak in their life. So it really is nice to see
Yeah.
that they are ready for
Yeah.
a second chance at love. So
Yeah,
let's
no,
give
it's
a little
good
plug
to-
for that. Okay, ladies, anything else we want to say about fall TV?
No, I mean, I could literally go on and on, but I won't.
Uh-huh.
Um,
I know.
I do have many more suggestions and things, but maybe I'll cover them in new and noteworthy.
Right. Well, and I will just add, because now it's really not just fall TV. Now it really is kind of like year-round TV,
Mm-hmm.
because you were just
Mhm.
saying a show that you want to watch isn't going to be released until January. We have some that are coming on in November.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that has changed drastically
Mhm.
since I was growing up, and even as a young wife and mom. So that's why it can be a little bit challenging to keep track of what's going on, especially if you really like a show.
Yeah.
So you have to have a little bit more of a heads up, because
Mhm.
things have really changed. The landscape has really changed. But
For sure.
That's true.
I do think there's some excellent shows out there. So thanks for sharing the ones that you liked. And
Yeah.
all right, well, that wraps it up for another episode of Message from Mom. And we will take a quick break, and we will return with new and noteworthy. And we're back with my favorite segment. And so this is when Chelsea, Kelly, and I just share, maybe it's a product, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a TV show. I mean, we just talked about TV shows today,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just a fun little segment where we just share something that's new or noteworthy. So I'll kick it off with you this week, Chelsea. So what do you have for us?
I have the 8 sleep mattress pad, which hopefully I haven't already said on a new and noteworthy.
Uh-huh.
You haven't.
Okay, I was like, I can't
Yeah.
remember. I couldn't remember when I put that down. But so Andrew bought it. I guess we've maybe had it for almost a year now.
Mhm.
But basically, it's a mattress pad that goes over your mattress, and it's got these like water cooling tubes that go inside of the mattress pad. That then on each side of the pod, so he has his own pod, I have my own. You can adjust the temperature, which is
Mhm.
really nice.
Mm-hmm.
So I typically like to start, in the bed a little bit warmer
Mhm.
because I get cold, but then throughout the night, so
Mhm.
I can set it to be warm, and then once I fall asleep, it'll go cooler, which is nice, and then it can wake you up warmer, so
Oh,
it can go back
so
and
you can tell
forth
it exactly what to do at a
Mhm.
specific point in time in the
at any
night.
specific point in time,
That's
and then
cool.
Andrew can have his own, so he likes to sleep cold.
Mm-hmm.
So he can start his off as cold as he wants
Mhm.
and, adjust from there. But it's really nice, especially in the summer and winter time. And especially because we live in a house that was built in the 70s and our windows need to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's a little
it
chilly.
gets really cold in the winter
It's a little
and
chilly.
a little warm in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then it also tracks your sleep stats and like vitals. So your HVR or
Oh.
HRV,
Mm-hmm.
your heart rate, your breath rate.
Mm-hmm.
It tells you how much you snore, which I don't think sometimes I don't know how accurate it is because Asher sleeps in the bed with us and it'll be like, you snored 90% last night. And I know that that's
It's
Asher.
really Asher.
Because I
Blame it
don't,
on Asher.
well, even Andrew's like, you don't snore. And he's like, I don't, and he
Mhm.
actually really doesn't snore.
Mhm.
Like neither of us do.
Yeah.
It's definitely Asher.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
funny.
it's cool. Yeah, it's a cool, and it'll tell you how long you slept and
Mhm. So it's an
like that.
actual pad that you just put on top of your mattress.
So it's a
Correct.
pad that you put on top of your mattress, and then there's an app that you have on your phone.
That's cool.
And then basically you track all of that
I do
through
like
the app.
technology like
Yeah.
that. It really does help our life and our
Mhm.
health and
Yeah.
things like
I
that.
was skeptical at first, but I actually really do like it a
Mhm.
lot.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
Okay, Kelly, what do you
Okay,
have?
I have more TV.
More TV.
Who would have thought?
More TV.
I'm going to just say two quick things really quick.
Mhm.
TV show, these are both Apple TV series. One is called Bad Monkey and it stars Vince Vaughn. It's based on a book by Carl Hyacin. I think I'm saying his name right. Anyway, he was writer for the Miami Herald, I think it was, but he writes books about Miami. Really clever writing. Their detective stories, really fun to watch. Vince Vaughn is pretty electric. I really like that guy. And
He
so
was
he's
kind of
great.
off the radar for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then now
He
he's kind of
was.
come back.
Yeah.
pretty-
I mean, I think his turn on Curb Your Enthusiasm was so great. And I think it kind of pointed him back in the
Mhm.
direction of
Mhm.
comedy and just kind of who he, like where his strengths are,
Mhm.
which is like the fast talking, you know.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So he's perfect as a detective
Mhm.
in that case. And then the other show, really quickly, also an Apple TV show, is coming back for season 2. Bad Sisters. Season 1 was a few years ago.
Oh, I
watched
loved
that
that.
show. It was so good, and I was
Yeah.
shocked to see that they're coming out with season 2 because I kind of thought it was a limited series. This is an Irish television show.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just a limited thing. So when they said they're coming back with a season 2, it really piqued my interest. So I'll be looking forward to that. I think it's out in October.
Okay, so Bad Monkey and just one season is out so far.
Mhm.
Okay,
Bad Monkey and then
I started
Bad
that,
Sisters.
yeah.
and then Bad Sisters. All right. Well, I have a book this week. So this is a book by Kristin Hanna, and she's a New York Times bestseller.
Mhm.
And I'd actually had this book for a while, and when I went to Tybee, that was what I binged
Oh, nice.
on, was on the drive there. I love Audible just for traveling because you can really listen to a lot of books. You can get through a lot of books that way. So I listened to it and it was just excellent. So this is a book set in the 1960s, and it's a young woman who is a nurse, and so she enlists to go be a combat nurse over in Vietnam. So it goes through her experience over there. I mean, half the book really covers her experience over there, and she re-upped for another year, so she was there 2 years in
Mhm.
total. And just the people that came in and out of her life, loves,
Mhm.
it focused on love life, and then her friendships, and then but then coming back and then dealing with what was going on in America and how they did not honor the
Mm.
Vietnam vets, and
Yeah.
especially the women. I mean, she would be met many times, but there were no women in Vietnam, but there were, and maybe they weren't on the front lines, but she was on the front lines because I mean, she's all of the incoming wounded. She is having to deal with them,
Yeah.
and so very well done. I love Kristin Hanna. She's a great writer. The only thing I would say is that the very end of the book got a little soap opera-ish. I was just like, I'm like, okay, would you leave the protagonist alone? She's been through enough.
Yeah.
But it was like, no, we have to put her through one more.
Yeah.
I started this one on Audible,
Mhm.
but I think maybe had I actually read it, I just can't do.
You can't do Audible.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if I would have read it,
Well, I have it. I will lend it to you because I think it's an excellent book. So highly recommend actually any book by Kristin Hanna, but this one is it's noteworthy. Definitely is. So,
Nice.
all right, ladies. Well, that wraps up another episode of Message from Mom, where we're busting the myth that mothers-in-law aren't necessarily monsters-in-law.